Hi, this is Professor Salazar, and today I want to show you a lab that I created called CBC bit flipping. I'm going to start by opening the lab and going to my browser and typing in the URL https://ctf.professorsalazar.cloud/bitflip.html. And the site actually looks like this. Let me go ahead and start by sharing my screen. Okay. Right now I'm at https://ctf.professorsalazar.cloud/bitflip.html. And before I start talking about this bitflip, it's important to understand uh, what is actually going on here. So I'm actually going to show you a site where a guest account has been logged in and cannot view anything as a guest. But if somebody goes in there and is able to change the bit from 0 to 1, then the admin is given an administration panel where the admin can make changes to things, right? So let me go ahead and read this site to you. Welcome to the CBC bit flipping lab. This environment is designed to demonstrate the malleability of the cipher block chaining mode of encryption. In CBC mode, decryption of a block depends on the ciphertext of the previous block. A 1-bit change in a ciphertext block will completely scramble its corresponding plaintext block, but will produce a predictable 1-bit change in the next plaintext block. All right. So if you go down here, there's a button that says Access Instance, and the page actually looks like this when you first get to it. This is actually running off of a Docker container that I created. And this Docker container is just hosting a simple web page that just says login page. And it basically looks like I'm logged in as a guest. You'll notice here that the status says access denied, admin equals 0. But if I'm able to change that bit from 0 to 1, then what I essentially have done is logged in as the admin. And if I logged in as the admin, it should show me an admin dashboard where I can make changes to things. So my goal for this lab is to change this bit from 0 to 1 and to bypass this login page and have access to the admin page. Because right now I'm just logged in as a guest. All right. Before I do that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick, and I'm just going to talk about something uh, as an analogy. Okay. So as an analogy of this, if anyone's ever been to a theme park that usually has rides and roller coasters and different types of things to do, when someone wants to ride all of the rides in the theme park, they'll usually buy a bracelet, and that bracelet will be used to ride any ride in the park. Well, what happens, let's say, for example, I go up to someone and let's say, for example, that certain someone is just sleeping on a park bench, taking it easy, relaxing. I go up with scissors and I cut that bracelet off of their wrist and I tie it around my wrist. Well, when I go to a ride, the ride operator is not going to check to see that I am who I say I am. They're only going to check to see that I'm wearing that bracelet, right? So that means that if I steal that bracelet, I can put it around my wrist and ride any ride in the park that I want, right? So what what is essentially happening here is that in this lab activity, there's a session token that's allowing me to access this website, right? But if I change the session token, what it'll essentially do is change the bit from 0 to 1 so that I can access an admin dashboard, right? So let me kind of show you what I'm going to do to actually get this lab going. I'm going to go back and share my screen, and you do that right there. You'll see that I'm still on the page, right? Now, what an ethical hacker might do, or someone that's conducting a pen test, they might look around at the source page of this website, taking a look at any HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and see if there's something hidden within the page that can be manipulated. But I just want to, before we get started on this, I want to make sure that everybody understands that you should not perform this lab for illegal purposes. You should perform this lab as an ethical hacker or as a penetration tester for good purposes, not for any illegal activity, right? So I always have to tell my students, if we're going to do something and it's sort of uh, something in the field of hacking, then you want to make sure that you have authorization to do it. Otherwise, do not do it, right? Um, so just make sure that if you're going to be doing something like this, you have authorization, right? And that you're doing it for legal purposes or for educational purposes, like I'm showing you here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to open up my Kali Linux, and this is a virtual machine that I created. When I log into Kali Linux, uh, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that site. So I'll open up my Firefox browser, and up in the URL, I'll type in https://ctf professorsalazar.cloud/bitflip.html. And you should get to that same site that I was showing you earlier. And if I go down, I'll click on Access Instance, and you'll see that the page actually looks a little bit different this time. You'll see that it says, Welcome guest, status access denied, only admins can see the control panel, right? Why does it look different this time? Well, because this is the first time that I actually visited this site on my Kali Linux computer. If I go back to my Windows computer, I visited that site many times, right? So in essence, if I refresh this page, it's kind of like if I hit that page a second time and it will not look the same again. So I'll go ahead and click refresh again or reload the page, and you'll see exactly what was shown on my Windows computer. Now, we're going to take a look at something to find the session token of this website. All right. And the session token that we're going to be looking at is a cookie that's on this website. And if I'm able to change that session token and generate something new, it may allow me to this admin control panel. Okay. This admin dashboard. So what I'm going to do next is within my Firefox browser, I'm going to click on the Open Application menu on the upper right-hand side. I'm going to go down to More Tools. And if I click on More Tools, I'm going to click on Web Developer Tools. I can also type Control-Shift-I on the keyboard, and it'll also open up the Web Developer Tools. So now that I'm in the Web Developer Tools, I know it looks kind of small. Let me go ahead and change this to full screen. If I'm looking for that session token, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Storage tab. And on the Storage tab, you'll notice under Cookies, you'll see my URL earlier of that Docker container. Okay, that Docker container is running on 45.79.23.229. And if I click on it under Dev Debug, I see that there's another path to this website. Let me see if I can make this larger. I'll see that at the end of my website, there's also a folder called secret. And within that secret folder, there's also a script.py. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that and plug it into my URL and see if I get something different. Secret/script.py. And you'll notice that I got to sort of like a hidden page here. And within this hidden page, this looks like a Python script. And this Python script has been created so that it can generate a new session token and forge the original one. So if I highlight this entire script, I'm going to copy this by typing in Control-Shift-C. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a terminal window, and I'm going to type sudo nano. I'm going to create this as solve.py. And by the way, this could be any name. It doesn't have to be solve.py, but you'll notice that it has a Python extension at the end, .py. That's required. Okay. The nano text editor opens up a new window, and I'm going to paste all of that Python script into this window. So I'm going to type Control-Shift-V to paste it. That's not working. I might have to do right click and then paste. There we go. So if I go up, this is the entire script that was just copied from that hidden site from my website. And you'll notice that the target URP says the URL equals http://45.79.23.229. This is running on my Docker container. And I'm just going to save it by typing Control X, Y, Enter. Now if I type ls, I should see that I have a solve.py file right here. And if I want to run this script, what I'll do is I'll type sudo nano solve.py. And when I run this script, it should forge a new session token, okay, for me. Now, if I hit enter, let's see what happened. Let me do Control X. No, it didn't like that. Let me see what happened. Oh, I know. Sorry about that. I opened up that file in the nano text editor, but what I need to do is I need to run it as a Python script. So I'm going to type in sudo python3 solve.py. All right. So this is how you would run a Python, any Python script. You just have to type in Python or Python3 in the beginning, followed by the name of the file. And when I run it, it looks like I'm getting back an admin page now. You'll see that it says admin access granted. You'll see admin control panel. And up here, you'll also notice I have a forged cookie. This is the original cookie that was on the site. And now I have a forged cookie that's on the site. And by the way, if you take a look at both of these, they almost look identical, but they're actually not identical, okay? So let me go through this original cookie. 38D802EB4B3F26669AC3F7. I'm going to stop right here at the 7 because it looks like when I read the forged cookie, there's a 6 right here instead. Everything else pretty much looks identical, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this forged cookie, and I'm going to copy it, Control-Shift-C, and I'm going to go back to storage, back to my cookies, back to my URL, and instead of having that auth value of that existing cookie, I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to plug in that forged cookie. And I'm going to paste it and hit enter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my original site. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back here. Let me go ahead and close this now. I'm going to go back to my original Docker container, and let's see if it actually changed it so that I can view this admin dashboard. And look at that. Now I'm able to access the admin control panel, and I wrote something here that says, welcome super user, authentication bypass successful, critical controls, delete all users, right? This button doesn't actually work. This is kind of just like a fictitious admin control panel. I also wrote a secret flag here, kind of just showing students how to run this as a capture the flag game. But what's interesting about this is that I'm going to go ahead and stop this for 1 second. What's interesting about this site is that I did not uh, use any type of specific tools to break the encryption because this encryption that's being used is AES encryption and it's very strong encryption, right? I didn't steal a password. I didn't crack a database. What I did was I mathematically manipulated the encrypted ID card or the cookie to trick the server into thinking you are someone else, which is the admin, right? Uh, the failure of this site protecting its data or protecting this admin dashboard was that the server used AES encryption, which is good, but forgot about integrity. And specifically, there's this type of integrity that it should have used called HMAC, which stands for hash-based message authentication control or authentication code. It hid the data, but it didn't steal it. Or not steal it, but it didn't seal it. It hid the data pretty much like in plain sight, right? Because the server blindly trusted the decrypted value without checking if it had been tampered with, you were able to rewrite your own role on that site. So instead of just coming in as a guest, you were able to bypass that and look at the server and say, "Hey, I'm no longer guest, I'm admin. So show me this admin dashboard," right? Uh, I'm going to go back to this site. Let me first do something here. And I'm still running it on my Kali Linux machine, but I'll go back and share my screen just so you could see that when we first accessed this URL, which is my Docker container, it showed us a site where automatically we were logged in as a guest, right? Uh, which basically just goes to show that the site uh, was providing some type of security, right? I'm not saying that there was no security on the site, but the fact that somebody is able to go into the development tools and manipulate that session token and just plug in whatever into there, not whatever basically, but something that looks almost identical to the real session token, it's almost alarming as to how easily I was able to bypass the authentication here, right? Authentication is very important. Uh, let's say, for example, you log into a site, you're asked for your username and your password, right? Well, how would you beef up that type of authentication? Well, maybe the system should have asked you for uh, some type of a code, maybe a two-factor authentication, maybe your authenticator that's running off of your phone. A lot of times that extra security is like an extra step that you have to do in order to log into something, right? But a lot of people don't like doing it because it's an extra step. And it's really easy to fix that. Now, what should have also been done is on this site, uh, integrity should have been implemented. Without integrity, it pretty much lost its security. And this is why I go back to saying that the CIA triad is very important when it comes to security. It's not just about confidentiality or availability, but integrity. Integrity meaning that the data has not changed. You know, if for some reason it has changed, uh, we should maybe possibly look at a hash value that provides that integrity of data, right? And for example, if you get to this website, the average user is not going to look at the session token or some type of a cookie or anything like that. But somebody's trying to bypass those security models or that security for that site will be looking at the developer tools, looking at storage, looking to see what the authentication session is. They're going to try to manipulate that kind of stuff. And as a security person or somebody as a student going through and learning about security, this is a critical thing that you need to learn. CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And you cannot secure your data without having those three right there. So uh, that's pretty much all I wanted to show y'all. Thank y'all for your time, and I'll see you on the next video.